Top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Private security firms wearing ski masks not permissible in law, WALTON DESIR argues. Government considering earlier curfew hours. Home Affairs Minister says there is no excuse for criminal behavior and work to immediately begin on the VREED Hoop and Georgetown stellings. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Wednesday, April 30 edition of the HGP Nightly News. We have what you need to know this evening. Antonio Day opens a broadcast this evening. He will tell us that the government has failed to say whether permission has been granted for private security firms to be uniformed with ski masks.
The country is in an uproar following the tragic death of 11-year-old Adriana Young, whose lifeless body was discovered in a swimming pool at a double-day hotel in Tushen, East Bank, Essequibo. Countrywide protests have erupted, some turning very uncivil in nature. Opposition Member of Parliament Amanza Walton DESIR questions whether security firms had permission to wear ski masks during an unruly protest at Tushen, East Bank, Essequibo. During this unruly event, numerous civilians interacted with private armed security firms whose identities were concealed by balaclavas. At the 102nd sitting of the National Assembly, DESIR raised the question of whether the Ministry of Home Affairs had given consent to the private security firm to provide law enforcement services. But Manzu Nadir, the Speaker of the National Assembly, sidestepped the issue.
That is very simple, and it is a yes or no answer.
And while it might be simple, it's important, and the urgency criterion at this point, in my view, then make it qualified.
Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We need to move on.
Walton DESIR, in an interview with Nightly News, pointed out that the Speaker showed a lack of respect for the submitted question and revealed his uncouth behavior to the nation.
They had security guards heavily armed with bulletproof vests, etc., and their faces obscured by ski masks. Now, there is no provision for that in the laws of Guyana unless permission has been granted pursuant to the Private Security Services Act.
The opposition Member of Parliament agitated that the Speaker was out of order and he could have simply deferred the question to the Minister of Home Affairs to give a direct answer, but instead disallowed it.
And all that was required was for the Minister to stand up and say, yes, we gave permission. No, we did not give permission. Again, just a callous disregard for law, for order, for decency, for transparency.
I am Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
The government is inclined to impose earlier and longer curfew hours as Guyana was placed on shutdown Monday over the killing of an 11-year-old girl. Here is more. If widespread protest action continues, there could be an earlier curfew imposed by the government. That's the word from Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben, who spoke with reporters on Monday.
The curfew, it might start earlier tonight, and we'll review how late it or how early in the morning it will go. So.
Okay, when you say early, it could start as early as 6 p.m.?
It might start as early as 10. We're reviewing the matter at the moment.
Government was forced to impose a national curfew from 12:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. in light of continued widespread protest over the killing of 11-year-old Adriana Young, whose body was retrieved from the double-day hotel at Tushen, East Bank, Essequibo. Some businesses in Georgetown were looted, and there were also reports that robberies were part of the chaos.
There was no excuse for the behavior which unfolded, particularly in social media. And those social media posts are still online, still up, and have been recorded. And as a result of some of those posts, more people will be arrested for creating public mischief, terror, all the things which are related to their behavior on social media. What happened last night was encouraged.
On Monday afternoon, riot police opened fire at several demonstrators who were outside the Georgetown Public Hospital. Later that evening, several other villages blocked the roads and burned the tires, forcing police to open fire to disperse crowds. All this happened because citizens have been calling on the Guyana Police Force to bring those responsible for the death of 11-year-old Adriana Young to justice. According to the Home Affairs Minister, the government will continue to monitor the situation countrywide.
We've been up all night monitoring the situation to try to see where we need to send help and support and bring some law and order. Now we're trying to go around to the little areas, particularly in the city, to show presence and to try to encourage people to come back to some level of orderliness and lawful behavior.
The police have since charged several persons for allegedly inciting public terror and robbery. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Stay with us. There is more news ahead. Welcome back to the HGP Nightly News. Aubrey Norton has condemned the Guyana Police Force for its incompetence while calling for the release of People's National Congress reform activist Robin Simon. DESIR Richards will tell you more.
Leader of the opposition Aubrey Norton is condemning the Guyana Police Force for its gross incompetence. Norton highlighted that the police force has harassed People's National Congress reform activist Robin Simon, who turned herself into the police on Tuesday following the release of a wanted bulletin for her arrest.
We call on the Guyana Police Force to release her. She has committed no crime. You seem to be protecting the criminals and arresting the innocent.
The opposition indicated the reason for Simon's arrest has been widely touted since the gruesome discovery of 11-year-old Adriana Young.
She cannot be incarcerated for using a slogan that all and sundry have been using. No justice, no peace. To say that is not a crime.
He also stressed that his party is all for peaceful protests and will not condone any sort of disorderly behavior or criminal activities.
That one street-oriented protest emerged. The PPP was going to utilize the criminals at its disposal and penetrate the protests.
He added that the police force should start pursuing criminals and also asked for the incumbent administration to stop the alleged use of criminals to create racial division. For HGP Nightly News, I am DESIR Richards.
In the courts, 17 people have been charged with terrorism following violent protests in Georgetown. Attorney General Anil Nandlal says the charges are appropriate and carry stiff penalties. If convicted, the accused face up to 15 years in prison and fines of no less than $500,000 or the death penalty if loss of life occurs. Find out more from Tiana Cole.
The Guyana Police Force arrested over 100 people in the past 24 hours for various offenses, including armed robbery. 17 of them were charged on Wednesday under Article 309A of the Criminal Law Offences Act. They appeared before Senior Magistrate Fabe Azor in the Georgetown Magistrates Court, where they were all denied bail and remanded to prison. Their cases were adjourned to May 28, 2025. Among the 17, 9 men were jointly charged with attempting to incite terror and cause destruction to both public and private property at Cemetery Road. Some were also charged with breaking into a Chinese-owned supermarket and stealing an estimated $6 million in goods. Others were charged with similar offenses committed in Onter Street, West Rheinveld, and along Sussex Street. While some of the defendants cried in court, the prosecutor, in objecting to bail, told the court that there is clear video evidence implicating each of the accused in the violent episodes. This footage will be submitted as part of the case. Meanwhile, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, during his weekly program Issues in the News, stated that the proper offense to charge these individuals with is terrorism. He noted that this is provided under Article 309A of the Criminal Law Offences Act. He explained that a person who commits a terrorist act that results in death will face a death penalty and a fine of $1.5 million. If no death occurs, the offender faces a fine of no less than $500,000 along with 10 to 15 years in prison. He further stressed that anyone who conspires, advocates, advises, or incites others to commit terrorism shall be punished as if they were the principal offender.
Offenses or offense to charge these persons with.
Nanda said that while the police will file the charges, it is now up to the independent justice system to handle the matter. He noted that the public will be watching closely to see how these cases unfold and emphasized that the courts must treat them with the seriousness they deserve. He added that appropriate legal principles will be applied.
Evidence is presented, one would expect that the magistrates will rule based upon the evidence presented and will render a verdict in accordance with law.
He further pointed out that these are matters of national importance and that the government and law enforcement are often fairly blamed in international reports for the number of convictions in criminal cases. He cited a recent case where the government was criticized for not securing enough convictions.
The truth of the matter is neither the government nor the law enforcement agencies control or have any control or have any influence over the way the cases are determined.
These individuals were part of widespread events of unrest that gripped Georgetown on Monday. The violence erupted following public outrage over the tragic death of 11-year-old Adriana Young, triggering looting, road blockades, and fires across the capital. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP 93 News.
Thank you, Tiana. Antonio Day reports that political leaders held a joint press briefing to highlight the government's recent failures, especially regarding the Guyana Police Force after Adriana Young's death.
On Thursday, civil society, the opposition, and various political movements united to condemn the excessive force against peaceful protesters, racial intolerance, and the political exploitation of national grief.
But the people of Guyana are more aware now than ever. We reject that political culture entirely. We condemn the looting and destruction of private and public property.
That was businessman Terence Campbell. While the completed autopsy result reveals drowning to be the causative factor of Young's death, Alliance for Change leader Nigel Hughes highlights the lack of a toxicology report.
If the water in the pool has chlorine, and any water that was found in her lungs or elsewhere in her body is not consistent with chlorine, it reduces significantly the possibility that she drowned in the pool. So I think it's completely premature in the absence of a toxicology report.
Darren Best, founder of the Vigilant Protection Action Committee, also shared his thoughts.
And the scrapes, as they call them, to come out and to continue to protest to end to this culture. Protest to bring in, we must know why we'll protest to this culture. Victim of this culture. This is why I understand it.
Nigel London, founder of the People's National Movement, called for the resignation of the police commissioner and other elements at the Guyana Police Force.
Better, and we shall do better. We shall ensure that better is done. Clifton Hicken needs to go, but he's supervised by Robeson Ben. Why should he stay?
Simona Brooms, founder of the Assembly for Liberty and Prosperity, ALP, and other members of civil society sounded their voices on the subject and urged Guyanese to act sensibly and not to be consumed by the emotions and ethnic division. It is important to note that no member from the governing People's Progressive Party, Civic, attended or spoke at the press briefing. Although the leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, was absent, Don Hastings-Williams and Annette Ferguson were present on the behalf of the People's National Congress Reform and a Partnership for National Unity. I'm Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Stay with us. There is more news ahead. Thanks for staying with us here in the HGP Nightly News. We tell you that with over 8 million in foot traffic and the passengers venturing from VREED and Hoop to Georgetown in 2024, President Irfan Ali has said that works are to begin to upkeep the Stelling. More from DESIR Richards.
President Irfan Ali on Wednesday visited the VREED and Hoop Stelling and highlighted that 8.5 million people used the Stelling in 2024, crossing to Georgetown and vice versa, and the time has come to invest in and upgrade the facility. The president said that works are to begin on May 1st to get rid of some ongoing challenges that passengers and operators face on a daily basis.
Starting tonight, we use a bridge stretch in the Starbrook area, starting at the low tide. Today, Thomas is going to mobilize someone to remove all the logs.
Among the requests from the operators were that cameras should be placed along the Stelling, and Ali made a commitment to get this task completed as soon as possible.
I'm going to ask that we work on installing the cameras. Right, this will take some time. Look at that. They hot for the monitor on the Georgetown side. Thomas, make sure we put that in.
He also added that plans are afoot to extend the landing and the shed of the Stelling in Georgetown.
Make sure we put lights on both sides, proper lighting. Yes, sir. Right? Put the landing, extend the landing on the Georgetown side. Right. All of that I want started immediately.
In addition to work scheduled to be done on the Stelling, marine officers will also be placed to overlook the various activities occurring in the spaces of both landings on each side of the Demerara River. For HGP Nightly News, I am DESIR Richards.
Attorney General Anil Nandlal is raising concerns over the prolonged absence of Adonica Alder, the wife of dismissed Assistant Police Commissioner Calvin Brutus, who left the country for medical reasons but has not returned. Tiana Cole is on this story.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal on Tuesday expressed concern over the continued absence of Adonica Alder from the country. Alder, the wife of dismissed Assistant Police Commissioner Calvin Brutus, was granted permission to travel to the United States for emergency medical treatment while heavily pregnant in December 2024, but has not yet returned. Nandlal explained that Alder's initial application to leave the jurisdiction was denied by a High Court judge. However, she later approached the Magistrates Court, which granted the request and set a return date.
That date has long gone, and the person is still out of the country.
The Attorney General pointed to repeated delays in the matter.
It's a matter of national public importance. Hundreds of millions of dollars of public funds have allegedly been defrauded.
While clarifying that he was not criticizing the judiciary, Nandlal emphasized that it is his duty to address such matters publicly.
We are now being told that the case must await somebody to get a passport. This person left to seek medical attention.
Alder faces 2 charges of money laundering. Prosecutors allege that between December 2023 and July 2024, she deposited $473 million in illicit funds into accounts connected to her business. She is also implicated in a broader fraud case involving her husband, in which 221 Guyana Police Force payment vouchers were allegedly used to defraud the state. She was released on $1 million bail and was required to surrender her passport. At the most recent court hearing before Magistrate McGusty, it was revealed that Alder had applied for a U.S. passport. The court was informed that her appointment is dependent on the availability of dates. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Stay tuned for your regional news.
Good evening, I'm DESIR Richards with Wednesday's edition of the Regional News. We begin with news from Antigua. A convict of murder in Antigua was deported to his homeland of Jamaica on April 27, despite an earlier court ruling that would have allowed him to remain in the country until mid-May. Caribbean Airlines transported Jeffrey Nash Campbell back to Jamaica following a rapid reversal of his temporary reprieve. Just days earlier, on April 22, Acting Chief Magistrate Dexter Wason had granted Campbell bail of $10,000 with one Antiguan citizen as a surety, permitting him time to settle his affairs before deportation. The court had also ordered him to report to immigration twice weekly on Mondays and Thursdays. However, this arrangement was short-lived. On Thursday, April 24, the court revoked Campbell's bail, accelerating his departure by nearly 3 weeks from the original May 18 deadline. Campbell, formerly a resident of Kentish Road, had established significant ties to Antigua during his nearly 2-decade stay, having arrived in 2005. He had fathered children in Antigua, though they no longer live in the country. The Jamaican national had been serving time for the 2013 murder of Sylvester Cooper Carbon. Carbon was fatally shot on April 10, 2013, while walking along Bridge Road after leaving a shop in the Grays Farm area. While in Trinidad and Tobago, police are investigating a report of a home invasion in Tobago. According to police reports, the incident occurred at approximately 3:30 a.m. on Monday at an apartment located at Guy Street, Canaan, Tobago. The victim, who had been staying at a friend's apartment, reported that he had secured the premises around 9 p.m. that night before locking all doors and windows except for the front door, which he had closed but not locked. While asleep in a bedroom within the apartment, the victim was awakened by 4 masked men who were dressed in dark clothing. One of the intruders was armed with what appeared to be a firearm. The armed assailant pointed the weapon at the victim and ordered him to leave the house. Fearing for his life, the victim complied with the demand. Before the victim exited the premises, one of the other men relieved him of $600 TNT in cash and a pack of cigarettes. The suspects then fled the scene. No injuries were reported and the suspects remain at large. Finally, the deputy political leader of the main opposition United Workers' Party UWP, Dilbert Paris, has announced his resignation from the position 4 months after being elected to the post. Paris had supported the electoral reform bills that the government had tabled in the parliament on March 19 this year, when police had to fire tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse opposition supporters who had been protesting against the measure. Paris, a civil engineer, was nominated as a senator by Anthony Charles, the independent candidate who successfully defeated the Dominican Labour Party DLP candidate, Gregory Rivrier, in the December 6 general elections. The UWP had boycotted the elections in keeping with their demands for electoral reform ahead of the polls. Paris, who has come under pressure since the passage of the Electoral Commission Act, confirmed that he had resigned, quote-unquote, with immediate effect, but would remain a member of the party. Thank you for watching. Do have a great rest of the week. Until next time.
Private security firms wearing ski masks not permissible in law, WALTON DESIR argues. Government considering earlier curfew hours. Home Affairs Minister says no excuse for criminal behavior and work to immediately begin on the VREED Hoop and Georgetown Stellings. President Afran Ali says those are our major headlines. For these stories and more, please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.